Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to the 6th and final part of my Valiant Dawn Complete set review. For this video we'll be doing Wisdom and the Multicolour cards. Now, a couple things. One, this video is late because I had tech issues. This is actually the second time I've recorded this, and then the third time when I tried it just didn't work. I ended up getting disconnected constantly and blah blah blah. It was, yeah. Been some issues, that's why I said a day late. So anyway, besides that, the nature review, yes, I got the combos wrong. There is one, as far as I understand. I have not tried it, and it looks very difficult to pull off. But there are some fairy combos. They're not very easy to pull off, and there's probably better things you can be doing, is basically how that works out. Someone could prove me wrong there, but yeah, there seems to be just easier ways of winning the game than doing the fairy combo stuff. So anyway, that's my little amendment to the nature thing. I also said Earthquake did 3 damage, but it actually does 4. So yeah, my evaluation of the card's pretty much the same, but yeah, worth noting. Yes, mistakes everywhere. So anyway, let's start with Wisdom. Ancient Ruins, the last of the skill shrines. For 1 Wisdom and 1 generic, you can use Rune of Insight, 2 mana, 2 turn cooldown. Next time you play a level 1 creature this turn, draw a card. This kind of just reminds me of the Dominion one. It's so close and it just isn't good. So this is worse than the Dominion one. I will say the ordering of these skill shrines is probably the Corruption one's the best, then the Dominion one, then Ancient Ruins, I think, then the nature one, then the order, then the rage. I think that's my hierarchy. Not very rigid, but anyway, the top two are definitely the Corruption Dominion one. The Corruption one is probably the only one that see play. So why don't I like this one? Well, the reason for it is because you're down a card when you go up a skill shrine. So then you got to play a creature, and you're up a card again. Then you got to play another creature 2 turns later, and you're up another card. So you've essentially just paid 4 mana to draw 1 card, when it really comes down to it, because that's a hero power, basically. That's basic Darius' hero power. So where could this possibly see play? Elrike, blue decks, that's about it, because the other decks have access to card draw. Kayanu, no, a lot of that's level 2. Yeah, it seems like it just doesn't fit anywhere. The only thing I can think of is Elrike, but if it's 2 color, there's probably better draw options, and even in Wisdom there's better draw options. Celestial Blossom, 0 mana, Wisdom, rare, artifact, 0 energy. Celestial Blossom enters the field with energy equal to your level. And it has channeling, you can use it to pay for artifact creatures. At the end of turn, if Celestial Blossom has no energy, destroy it. Now this is an interesting combo piece. It just doesn't quite pack enough punch. Now this reminds me of Black Lotus from Magic. It's probably a bit of a reference. The artwork is a bit of a reference. It can make 3 mana for 0, and it also makes artifacts, which is kind of funny. However, the stuff this is putting out is a little more fair when it comes to Wisdom, and the options aren't very good. So as a result, Celestial Blossom can do some crazy things, but playing 4 is not worth it. The only time I could see this maybe with Contraptionist. Yes, I'm serious. There's some actually good stuff now to get with Contraptionist. So maybe Contraptionist gets a one-off just to use in some combo turns, because it's really, really bad late game. So yeah, I'm not really sold on the Blossom yet, but I think it might be a tutor option with Contraptionist, because it does cost 0, and you can play Contraptionist if you got 3 levels, and then you can go Celestial Blossom, Steel Ascension if you have the Contraptionist and the Steel Ascension. So yeah, that's a potential combo. Distant Expedition, 1 mana, 1 Wisdom, common, blessing. At the end of your turn, put the top card of your deck under the Expedition. When the Expedition leaves the field, put a card from under it into your hand, and you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice it and draw a card. So, funny story about this. This was originally spoiled to not have a sacrifice cost, and it would have been the best card they've ever made, pretty much. So yeah, but no, that was a misprint. it was, I think, a really old version. I think they probably just played with it for like a day and realized how stupid it was. So, yeah, I think it was probably just a really old version just to try out the card. But anyway, so what do I think of this now? Well, I actually quite like it. It's not better than Ancient Wisdom, but it's not really worse either. It gives you some card selection. If you crack it 3 turns later, you put some cards in the graveyard. It works with Reanimator. Reanimator really did come into its own with this set, at least from what we've seen. You never know, it might still be a bit weak, but it definitely seems much better than it ever has been. Because even when it's been used before, there was always a better deck that kind of did the same thing. Whereas this time it feels a bit more unique. So, yeah, Expedition's really good there, and it may actually just replace Ancient Wisdom in a lot of decks. It doesn't draw 2 straight away, it only draws the 1 straight away. You have to wait till end of turn to get the second card. However, it does stop stuff like Shrine Flooding, so, at least to the same extent. So, I think I like the card. I think it is slightly better in practice than Ancient Wisdom, but not by a lot. And it's not like a which is strictly better type thing, because this Expedition does cost the 3 mana. It's also a very, very good combo with New Horizons, because you can play Expedition turn 1 and then New Horizons turn 2. So you've effectively just used your Expedition to pay the 1 mana you would have normally. Drone. 1 mana, 1 wisdom, with the common rarity, 1/1, 2 speed. It is an artifact creature. Sacrifice a drone, another artifact you control gets +1. This is a terrible card on its own. However, this is part of an engine. As part of a synergy engine with artifact creatures, so I will come back to this. But on its own, it's not good. Shifting Alright. 1 mana, 1 wisdom, rare, with indeterminate number of attack, 1 HP, and 2 speed. Its attack is equal to your level. Now this is cool here. If you have a nature, it gets ranged. If you have an order, it gets flying. If you have a corruption, it gets deadly. If you have a dominion, it gets unstoppable, and rage gives it swift. So this is basically a 6-color card, which is really cool. I really like this thing. It's also a peacock, basically. Now, one thing random to comment about the abilities. Deadly and Unstoppable look a bit reversed. They are mechanics in both of those aspects, but I think the only reason for that is balance, because having Deadly and Unstoppable from a Overcharger would just be insane. Like, if you had a Overcharge Shifting Alright that could get Unstoppable on color. So yeah, that'd be kind of ridiculous. I think that's the reason they've done it that way, but honestly, those two are interchangeable. Could be wrong. But anyway, those two are interchangeable. Now, I actually think this is a really good card. The reason for it is twofold. The flying and range, and swift. The swift allows you to late game play this as a 3/1 swift in red-blue aggro, which is huge. That's really big. 3/1 swift for 1 mana. That's big amounts of damage there. So that's good. You can also play it turn 1 and then turn 2. You can play it turn 1, move it back, turn 2, go for something else, and then turn 3, move it forward and attack for 2. The other combo I like is with order. The reason I like it is because you can play it turn 1, move it back, and then next turn you can go like a golem and attack. Or if you don't have a plate, you can go 2 levels, attack for 2 with flying, because it's on the back row. You can attack for 2 because of the flying, and then go Elite Vanguard next turn or something. So that actually seems good. I did mention there might be an Order Wisdom Tempo deck, and it seems like there might be one actually, and this will probably fit there. It gives you something comparable to Valisworn Incarnate in power level. Not quite that powerful, but comparable in terms of power in that deck. Cinderflame Subordinate, 2 mana, 1 wisdom, 2/2, 2 speed, uncommon. Starts with 0 energy. At the start of your turn, gain +1 energy. You can pay 1 energy to give it +1 speed till end of turn. And if you have a rage, you can pay X energy to deal X damage to a creature it's engaged with. Now, the point is you can't go face. So, what do I think of this? I actually really like it. 2/2, 2 speed, can boost its speed, can be used with Flash Freeze. That's a nice combo. Can be used with Flash Freeze, and you can use the second ability at instant speed, so on your opponent's turn as well. I think that this red-blue aggro deck might actually be a thing. Cinderflame Subordinate with a charged aura, if you're red-blue, is a scary thing if you're not playing, say, Dominion or a Fumes deck. So I would say Corruption, but a lot of them are splashing Corruption. So yeah, if you're playing a Splash of Corruption or just any Corruption or Dominion deck, it's going to be super easy. Rage, less so, but still they can take it out, but that will require Fireball probably, sometimes a Word of Fire. But yeah, I really like this guy. Also, pretty nice Trials card. 2/2, 2 speed. We've seen this before. It's a good card. Crazed Apothecary. 2 mana, 1 wisdom, common, 1/2, 2 speed, and he gets +1/+1 as long as you control an artifact. What is this? Wisdom with good 2-drops? This is... So yeah, for those of you who don't know, last year I kept complaining that Wisdom had absolutely no 2-drops. Because they didn't! They had like 8 3s and like 2 2-drops. It was just Disquisitive Spirit, the Squirrel, and Golem. So they had a vanilla 2-drop and like some... like the least aggressive 2-drop in the game. So now they've got Apothecary, which is really good, and then they've got all the other stuff like Force Wielder got changed to 2, Contraptionist got changed to 2... Like, they got a lot of 2-drops now, and they're actually decent. Runelet Incarnus been added, so yeah. This is now the, sort of the epitome of the Wisdom 2-drop. Needs synergy, but damn is it powerful. 2/3 with 2 speed is really good, and there's a lot of artifacts you can just play that stick on the board, so it's not like artifact creatures is what you're relying on. So, good 2-drop. Also works really well with Reactor, because when it goes off and you have another artifact, it's a 2/3, so it doesn't die. Nice card. Electrostatic Armor. 2 mana, 1 wisdom, rare, implant, first one outside Dominion. Attached to a creature. Whenever this creature misread that. Whenever this creature attacks a creature or hero, you may pay 1 mana to deal 2 damage to that creature or hero. You can only do this once. You can't just attack and deal 20. So you can only do that once. I actually really like the design. I don't think it's good enough and constructed, but I really like the design. I like the idea of using this with Flash Freeze. Flash Freeze got a lot better with this set. But anyway, I like the idea of using this with Flash Freeze. I like the idea of being able to use this on offense, and it rewards you for attacking enemy creatures, or just the enemy hero, because you get to deal a little bit of extra damage. You can use it with Library Guards to take out other Library Guards. That's nice. So yeah, I do like it. Don't think it's worth for constructed though. The reason for it is because you get 2 for 1 a lot with this thing. So yeah, that's awkward. And it doesn't buff up the creature, so it's still just as easy to remove. For Trials though, I think this is a very, very good card in Trials. Renovation Facility. 2 mana, 1 wisdom, rare. It's an artifact. It comes into play with 2 drones. That's why I said we come back to it later. Sacrifice a drone. Transform an artifact creature you control into one that costs 1 mana more, or that requires 1 more level. Now it only does one of those things. So it actually goes drone, golem, militant, which we'll get to, which is 2 mana 2 levels. Airship, steel sentient, which is 3 mana 3 levels. So yeah, it works the way it should, and not the way I first thought it might, which was drone, golem, steel sentient, because the wording is a bit unclear there, but it works the way I thought it should. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to tell just by reading the card. But anyway, so what do I think of this? Well, it gives you a 2/2 body over 2 creatures. Good start. It's an artifact, works with Automaton, not with Automaton, Apothecary, and also you can use them as combat tricks, and you can upgrade just random things like an airship into a steel sentient at instant speed. I actually really like this card. I think it might actually be a decent 2-drop, because it gives you a Wisdom Guards Guards, pretty much. It's a Wisdom Guards Guards. You don't get the instant speed, but you do get the really annoying drones, because they can't really just pick them off, because you can sacrifice one to upgrade the other into a golem to trade with a 2/2. So I like this card. Well, how much play will it see? I don't know. It might actually just be a Tempo Wisdom card. I don't know if the Automaton deck really works, but it seems like a lot of these cards will just fit into Tempo Wisdom. So if there's a Tempo Wisdom deck, I will try it. Shock. 2 mana, Wisdom, common, shock an enemy creature, draw a card. This is very boring. It's not going to really see any play because it's very boring and it doesn't do enough for the card slot. That's about all I have to say. Not unpickable in Trials because at least it cycles and there are worse cards you can pick. Before I forget, by the way, my evaluation on Drone is basically that there might be an Automaton deck. You might actually just play 4 Drone, 4 Charged Ori and go from there. But Shifting Ori is also quite a nice 1-drop that can attack for a lot. It attacks for 2 and then maybe 3 later on, and you go Golem as one of your 2s maybe, so I don't know. I'm still not sold on the Drone. Void Touched Subordinate. Oh, this has been a game for a while. 2 mana, Wisdom, uncommon, 0/3, 3 speed, can't attack, at start of your turn decay 2 cards, and if you have a corruption, whenever it engages in combat with a creature, that creature becomes a copy of Void Touch Subordinate at the end of turn. I hate this card. I really despise it. I wish it didn't exist. The reason is it stalls out board states, and I hate cards that stall out board states because they just stop interaction, which is really annoying. Now, the other problem I have with this card, which I've voiced before, is the color design makes no sense. So, okay, 0/3, 3 speed, can't attack. We'll say that's a neutral effect. It's a relic card, but we'll say that's a neutral effect, even though it's a bit of an ordery type thing. But anyway, for the sake of argument, that's a neutral effect. Start your turn, decay 2 cards. That's a corruption effect. And then transformation is a wisdom effect. That's very strange to me. I think it's because of balance, because otherwise having mono blue with the ability to just use the first ability and not the second, or use the second ability and not the first, like you don't decay your own cards and then just no one can attack you ever again, is probably just a balance thing. But it does confuse me. Like, it really confuses me. Like, I think the reason this is a wisdom card is just because of the subordinate cycle, where you've got a cycle of aurites that all have a secondary color in each of the aspects. Because the way I would see this is that it's a corruption card that has a blue ability. So yeah, that's a bit of a weird design thing from the devs. I think it's just for the sake of the cycle and also balance, so you can't reverse it. But I mean, granted, it is once you have both levels, it makes sense, but it's just a bit weird that it works that way. But anyway, so what do I think of playability? I think this is actually decent. I have ragged on about it a bit before. It's a relic card. It's the most annoying card ever to face, and the problem with it is it's just really, really bad in the control matchups. Against aggro, it's quite nice, actually. Against elves, especially, it's quite nice. That's a more recent deck that's come back into the metagame, which means that this has got better. The deck that this might be good in is Casual Darius, Drain Darius, because, well, the drawback isn't really that extensive because Harpy sacks it. Do you need the extra defense on turn 2? Maybe, because you're playing Squirrels on turn 2, which is the Disquisitive Spirit. So yeah, this in New Horizons is a nice defensive opening. Maybe that's worth it, but that deck is difficult to build, and yeah, it requires, let's just say, a lot of cuts that you don't really want to make, so I don't think this probably makes the list. It might do, but I'm not sold. Enchanting Subordinate, 3 mana, 1 wisdom, uncommon, 2/2, 2 speed, 2 energy, has flying, and whenever it attacks a creature, its attack and HP become equal to the attack and HP of that creature. Now that's base attack and HP, I would assume. And if you have a nature, you can pay its 2 energy to give it +1/+1 until end of turn, which allows you to basically snipe things. Now, the only problem I have with this is it is possibly one of the worst defensive creatures, like, imaginable. So that alone kind of brings it down a lot. The other problem is it dies to literally every removal spell in the game, more or less. Apart from Lightning Bolt, I guess, or Vermin. It dies to pretty much everything. So you won't even get that second ability a lot of the time. And at best case, it usually trades unless you're playing blue-green. And if you're playing blue-green, you probably have other things you want to be playing for the offensive sniping, like Ambushing Sharpshooter. So yeah, not sold in the Enchanting Subordinate. Where are we? There. Eleanor, Magi Adept, 4 mana, wisdom, epic, legendary, 1/4, 2 speed, 3 energy, has channeling to pay for the cost of action cards, and if you have 1 wisdom, 2 generic, you can put an action card that has 3 mana or less from your graveyard on the top of your deck when you play her. This has also been in the game for a while, and is quite good, actually. Quite a good card. Now, this one is a bit off cycle, by the way, where the last ability is 1 wisdom and not 2. Which is a little strange. I think the other ones are... Let me go check, actually. So the other ones are Duke Horsford and... I have gone straight past this card. There. Yeah, that's 2. Yeah, I think the other ones that are kind of like in this mini cycle are all 2s. Yeah, so bit strange there, the 4 mana 1 level guys that she's the one that has a singular wisdom. So yeah, a bit odd, but it does help with actually playing the card, which I do appreciate. So yeah, it means that it's easier to actually play the card because you don't often want to go double wisdom on those decks. So having the splash ability of Eleanor is what really helps her playability. So for the sake of balance, I'll give it a pass. But yeah, I actually do like the fact that it's one wisdom. That's a good thing. It's just something I noticed. Now, what she's mostly done is help with Reanimator and also just with various corruption decks. You can get some other weird things like Word of Grace, but the main ones are Word of Pain, Consume Spirit, and Reanimate. Those are the big three corruption spells that are really, really good with Eleanor. There are some other weird ones across the other aspects, but those are the big three. And she does well in those decks. She does do well in those decks. The Reanimate decks don't tend to play Harpy, although some of them do. And as a result, her one-level drawback type thing isn't actually that relevant. She's basically a 4-mana 3-level card, for all intents and purposes. She's basically a 4-mana 3-level card, simply because you want that second ability, that's why you're playing her. 1-4 stats aren't that bad either, does a lot of blocking. So a good card. Militant Automaton, 2 mana, 1 wisdom, 1 generic, 2/2, 2 speed, at common, 2 energy, the exact same stats and rarity as Force Mage Protector. Exact same. And you can pay an energy to boost its attack or HP by 1. It's also an artifact creature. I actually really like this guy. Outside of Rage, he is probably better than Protector. Now, Protector is a good card. Now, granted, he is horrifically bad against Rage, but Protector is a pretty good card, but has fallen out of favor more recently as you got more defensive options. Will Militant Automaton break back into that slot? Probably not. But Tempo Wisdom will like him. He's an artifact creature, buffs up your Apothecary, works with the Reactor quite well, because you can pump his HP before the end of turn, before it explodes. So he does actually work really well with that deck. Is it good enough? I'm leaning on no right now, but it might actually be, because being able to go 2/4 is really awkward, or 4/2. It lets you trade or brick wall a various amount of cards. Also, if you go Charge Door into Militant Automaton with 5 energy, oh boy, that's either a removal spell or good luck, pretty much. So, yeah, Foundry Engineers, better against decks that have the removal with the Charge Door, because you go Charge Door Foundry, you get your 2 golems, they remove the Foundry, that's fine. However, Automaton is just really good if they don't have the removal there. Like, if you're against something like Mono Order, oh, that's gonna be fun. So yeah, Automaton's are really good. It's also a really good Trials card. Probably better than Protector, possibly. I don't know. I haven't played a lot of Trials recently, but it might actually be better than Protector in Trials. Infuse Subordinate, 3 mana, 1 wisdom, 1 generic, 2/2, 3 speed, uncommon. When you play a spell, Infuse Subordinate gets +1/+1 to end of turn, and Dominion, whenever Infuse Subordinate destroys a creature, you may pay 1 mana to draw a card. This is not Library Guards. That's all I have to say about it. It does the same role as Library. It's just not Library Guards. Has worse stats. You have to pay more to get the effect to work. Yeah, bad on defense, bad on curve. Yeah, this is just not good. Sorry, you're just not Library Guards. Moving on. Snowstorm. 3 mana, 2 wisdom, uncommon. The enemy hero distributes X damage among creatures he or she controls, where X is the number of those creatures. Freeze all creatures dealt damage this way. This is horrific. Do not play it. It's terrible. It just results in some very, very upsetting situations when your opponent has like 8 creatures and you Snowstorm and it kills nothing. Yeah. The distribute cards, I think this is the last one in the set, they have been so bad. I think Arrow Barrage is the only one that even was considered, and that is not turned out to be worth it. Why? Because it's bad late game. It's still a good anti-aggro card though, so it'll probably still see some amount of play sometimes. But that's because you can split the rows, and it comes down when you need it early. It doesn't require double wisdom. And what is this gonna do? 3 damage most of the time? The freeze is good, but it's not flash freeze damage, it's just a freeze at the end of the effect. So the first time I played this, it was against a board of 5. I played Snowstorm and put 5 damage on Antriel. It's like, wait, what? What am I supposed to do against that? I actually did eventually find some use for it after going Snowstorm and then Snowstorm, Reflector, Snowstorm. I mean, that's 8 mana and 2 turns, and you needed a reflector. You could have just played Cataclysm. Like, you would be up 2 extra cards and a lot of mana. So, yeah, this card is bad. One of the worst cards in the set. Sunborn Subordinate. 3 mana, 1 wisdom, 1 generic, uncommon, 3/3, 2 speed, flying, 2 mana. You can deal 1 damage to all creatures engaged in combat with the Sunborn Subordinate, and you can only use it on your turn, and it can get lifebound with an order. I actually quite like this guy. It works really well with Flash Freeze. You can attack something, Flash Freeze, use the ability, 3 mana, kill anything. That's really nice. And you're only down the singular card since using a reusable effect. The fact that it can't use it on your opponent's turn brings it down a bit, but I can see why, because that would get really obnoxious. Yeah, you could just shut down so many offensive pushes with that. It also means it's pretty much impossible to multi-block this thing, because Sunborn Subordinate will deal an extra damage to each of them, which means if you block it with 3 2/2s to play around like a passive, not to pacify. If you block 3 2/2s to play around, I don't know. Say even if you're not playing Order, like you just play around Tornado Outbreak. Yeah, like Tornado Outbreak and then like Amber Strike. So you attack it with 3 2/2s, and then it's, well, okay, so you just use the ability and trade. Yeah. So yeah, Sunborn Subordinate is really good in offense. How good is it in practice? Difficult to tell, honestly. It 3/3, 2 speed flying looks quite innocuous, but we've underestimated flyers a lot. That has the same stat total as Succubus, and Succubus is pretty imposing on board sometimes. So I actually am going to say this is a good card. How good? I'm not sure if it's constructed level good, but it's definitely definitely getting up there. And also for Trials, this is a really good creature. Steel Sentient finally got to this guy. 3 mana, 2 wisdom, 1 generic, rare, 3/3, 3 speed. At start of your turn, you can summon a drone to the field. You can pay 1 mana, sacrifice a drone, put a Might Emblem on another artifact creature you control, and if you have 2 wisdom and 2 generic, he gets +1/+1 for each drone you control. He's also an artifact creature. This is the big thing that the drone engine, you put 5 drones in, you pay 4 drones to upgrade the last drone, you get your Steel Ascension, and then they bounce it and it becomes a drone. Yep, because it's a transformation effect. So in other words, yeah, the pure combo-y drone deck does not work, basically, because, yeah, it's too many resources. Too many resources to get out of Steel Ascension. So anyway, what do I think of it as an actual creature? Well, I love the design on this, first off, because it makes its own army, albeit slowly, but it makes its own army, and the idea is the army either makes it stronger, or it makes other artifacts stronger by, like, attaching them to them as counters. I really, really like that design. I think it's really, really cool. Now, what do I think about the actual playability of it? Well, I think it actually could be decent. It does die to Fireball, but it's pretty good against Dominion, actually. It's pretty good against Dominion and Corruption, which is a big deal right now. And it's not, like, vulnerable to Sticks. It's not vulnerable to Assassinate, Prinha until they go the full double Dominion. Yeah, I actually think Steel Sentient might be decent. We'll have to see whether the deck works, but there might be that tempo Wisdom build. It could be Tempo Wisdom with Kayanu, like the Kayanu Blue deck could be back. It could be a Order deck. We don't know, but the point is, I actually think that Steel Sentient might be worth running, and it is quite a powerful creature once it's in play. Keeping it in play is a bit of a problem because it is a bit frail, but when it comes down to actual creature combat, it's a bit like a blue Namir. Not as powerful, but it's like a blue Namir. The reason it's not as powerful is because of the Knight synergy in Namir being able to be used a reusable combat trick that can be used on anything and also in still life. So yeah, Steel Sentient, not quite Namir, but a kind of blue version of Namir. Cool card. Magi Expedition. It's a crab with a city on it. There's trees in the front. That has to be the biggest creature flavor-wise. That's kind of funny. But anyway, 4 mana, 2 wisdom, 2 generic, legendary, epic, 8/8, 0 speed, starts with 1 energy. whenever you draw a card, gain an energy, and whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, draw a card. I like how it says doesn't kill it. I like how it just deals combat damage. What the hell is blocking this? I guess if you like chump block it, if it has it doesn't have unstoppable. I don't know why you chump it with like 2 creatures so that one of them die. Well, the one doesn't die. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, whenever I guess if they trade 4 creatures into it, you draw 4 cards. So that's the thing. You can pay 1 energy to give it +1 speed to end of turn. This is one of the funniest cards in the entire game. It's an 8/8, it has 0 speed, and the energy actually goes up in it quite fast. You can play Magi Expedition, and then a Shrine, goes up to 2 energy. Next turn, you can draw a card for the turn, go up another Shrine, has 4 energy. So, yeah, then you pump it, I guess you pump it 4 times to go up to 4 speed, you hit them for 8, and then next turn it goes up to 2 speed on its own, you have an Ancient Wisdom, then you can do that again. So, it could be decent once it's in play. Here's the problem. The problem with this thing is the big creature syndrome, which is that it doesn't do enough when you play it to the board state, meaning you kind of just get overwhelmed if you play Magi Expedition. Now, it is a very large creature. It is quite a powerful win con. Does end the game rather quickly. The only problem I have with it is competing with a very powerful win condition in its own faction, which is Lamp of Zephyr. Lamp is probably what's going to mean that this cannot see play, and I think Reanimator is more focused on Ziara and Bezarok because of the Reign of the Underworld synergy, and less focused on actually winning through damage. So I think it's close, but I don't think this can work, simply because there are more efficient win conditions for this amount of mana. So anyway, very, very cool card. One of my favorite cards in the entire set because it's so funny. But probably not quite good enough. So that's the entirety of Wisdom. Now, before we go on to the multicolor cards, let's talk a little bit about the Wisdom set. Now, I actually think the Wisdom set isn't too bad. They got a lot of nice cards for Tempo Wisdom. They got some cards that will probably fit in some other decks, like Shifting Aura and Distant Expedition and Void Touch Subordinate, as much as I hate the card. So there's actually a couple of cards that kind of fit around in other decks. So, yeah, that's actually quite nice. They also have some absolute trash, but every set for every aspect has a few trash cards. In this case, it's Snowstorm and Shock. Shock is not technically strictly awful because it does draw a card, but it's just not worth the investment. So overall, I actually quite like the Wisdom set. It's not massively powerful, but it feels quite well designed, which I think reminds me of the Rage and Nature sets. I think Order probably had the weakest set. Maybe Nature. One of those two was the weakest set. However, design and power level are two very different things. Like, the most powerful set of cards was Dominion and then Corruption, but I prefer the designs on the Nature and Wisdom cards, for instance. So yeah, design versus power is definitely a very, very interesting discussion. But anyway, I think Wisdom is probably above Nature and Order and just under Rage in terms of actual power level. So, mid-level. Now, on to the multicolor cards. Yes, we got 6 multicolor cards and a new rarity out of this. Now, I'll talk about this one briefly because the new rarity has caused some controversy. So basically, it costs 400 trines total to actually make one of these damn things. Yes, they're expensive. I actually do not have a full playset of each of them, although I am slightly beyond caring actually making a full set of each of them because they're all legendary and you only need 3. Like, I started making 4 orbs of these when I had the extra shrines because I could. That's pretty much why. I've got 4 orbs of some of them. Now, the rarity itself, I actually like the addition of a new rarity because, I mean, for someone like me, I still have all of them immediately anyway, but for about the top, probably 15% of people that play the game, they've had full sets for ages. And I mean ages. Like, I mean, I'm in the upper echelons when it comes to riches. I'm not at the top. Like, at the top, you've got people like Laurentio with his 10 million gold. But, like, people that have been playing for just 6 months, even if they don't play that much, already have, like, full collections with, like, stockpiles. So I understand why they added it, because you do run out of reason to open packs after a while. Like, I've noticed this. I actually was making extra accounts just because it was boring to open packs on my own account until the announcement for when the next set was going to come out, and then I started stockpiling them. Like, it is a thing. It is actually a thing. A lot of people had packs saved up. So it makes sense that they added a new rarity. That I am perfectly fine with. I'm less fine with the heroes being upgraded in rarity. It makes sense from a flavor perspective, and you only need one. It does make it quite hard to actually get the heroes, sort of. The reason I say sort of is because now there are, outside of the basics, there are 12 advanced heroes you can get at the heroic slot in packs, which is 1 in 30. And then there are 6 non-hero heroics you can get in packs. So that's 18 total. Now, out of those 18, you have a 2/3 chance to get an advanced hero every 30 packs. Compared to getting an advanced hero in a pack before was just ridiculous. It took ages. The reason for it was because you had 12 advanced heroes, and then you had 12 epics. That was half and half. So what about after the set? Well, same number of heroes, 12. Double the number of epics. So now it's a 1 in 3 chance of actually getting a hero, which means for new players, they're going to be getting a lot more random things like Magi Expedition that they really don't need because they don't have a full collection yet, and they're going to be getting a lot less of the cards they actually need, like the heroes. So I think for the sake of new players, the rarity increase on heroes is probably still the same acquisition rate. And that will probably, I mean, it'll go down over time as more heroics are added, but not to the same rate as epics, because it seems like there's going to be way less heroics than epics, similar to how there are way less epics than rares. Although this is full base set, so base set will always be like this. That's when you can open the new heroes. So yeah, actually at this rate, I think, given that, now that I've remembered this, given that the new sets will be in new packs now because they're in the next block, then getting the base set heroes will always be this difficult, which is about the same as it was. I think it's slightly harder, but not by a lot. And they're harder to craft, but probably easier to get in packs. So that's kind of what I'm going to say about the hero rarity change. I'm behind the rarity because I think it's a bit strange to get out the pitchforks immediately. But we'll have to see where they take it in the future. So that's what that's my bit on the new rarity. So anyway, onto the actual multicolor cards. All legendaries. Let's start with the good faction ones. Seluxio, the Orbringer, or Seluhio, if depending on the actual name derivative. Yeah, it's a bit weird with the angelic names because a lot of them are Greek. So yeah, I'm going to call him Seluxio because it's in English, so I'm just going to read it like it's in English. But anyway, if anyone is a linguistics professor or something and knows how you're actually supposed to say angelic names, please chime in. I'm just going to read it as it is on the screen, but I am kind of curious. So anyway, 4 mana, 1 order, 1 wisdom, heroic legendary, 3/3, 3 speed, it's an angel. Flying, the enemy hero can't use hero skills. Now, the artwork on this is actually kind of funny because it is the most masculine looking angel. Now, the angels in Asperia are genderless, from what I understand. They're actually genderless. They do not have genders. They're always referred to as it or they. So yeah, they're genderless. So yeah, but most of them look fairly feminine, which is why this one's kind of funny. It's like the most masculine looking angel ever. But besides that, what do I think of the actual card? Now, a lot of people were hyping this immediately. I am not sold on it. I don't think it's good. The reason I don't is 3/3 is very easy to remove at this mana cost, and the hero skill shutdown sounds like it's amazing. The problem is it doesn't actually disrupt anything that much. It disrupts Reverence. That's huge, right? No. They bounce it and then Rev. They can bounce at end of turn and then rev the next turn. And he's legendary. There I go again. It's legendary. So that's a bit more awkward. You got extra legendary angels. Now it does work for Antriel though and Triangelico, so that's a plus. Now the thing about it is you can play Spell Wardens, right? Get rid of the bounce effects. Yeah, they got Dr. Sticks to kill Spell Wardens now, so that's more of an issue. So yeah, it doesn't disrupt Reverence. You probably already won against the Rage decks if this guy is stalling since it has 3 HP. and dies to the hero powers, which are awkward. I mean, not hero powers. Dies to the 3 damage abilities, which is awkward, like Fireball, Fire Blast, which they're going to have a ton of, and if you got Burning Rage, they'll always have them. I'm so used to saying hero powers are 3 HP, but no, not in this case, but it still applies to the other stuff. Fireball, Fire Blast. So they don't need to use, like, Dragon Fire, which is what they'll want to use on stuff like Guardian. So, yeah, doesn't actually do that much disrupting. Now, I do like it in Angels. The problem is you have to go Wisdom instead of Mono Order, which weakens your Incarnates, and Word of Grace. So that could be quite awkward. There might have to be a different Angel build that doesn't use Incarnate, because not being able to go through 3s Incarnates is pretty huge. So anyway, decent card, but I'm not massively sold. Tren. Birchwood Guardian. I love the artwork there. 3 mana, nature, order, generic, legendary, heroic, 4/5, 1 speed, unstoppable. 3 mana, put a Might Emblem on Tren. Spells with mana cost equal to the number of Might Emblems on Tren can't be played. This guy's too slow. Both in speed and in playable speed. So, that sentence sounded better before I said it. But anyway, so basically, 1 speed is a problem. Also, 3 mana to play him, sure, and then you have to pay 3 mana every single time to get a Might Emblem. So you go 3 mana, play 3 mana, then you lock out Tornado. Okay, that's good. 5, 6, 6 mana. Alright, okay, if you say so. And then they landslide it and you lose. So it doesn't work against nature, and it shuts off your own stuff as well. So against order, you go 9 mana, 6, 7 to stop pacifying guards, and then they ray it. Yeah, here's the issue. 1 or 2 is the only thing you're going to get, because 3 or 4 is going to take so long you've already won the game. So 1 or 2 is the only blocks you're going to get, probably 1. The problem is that removal of this type to kill smaller, in terms of speed stat, not in terms of HP, but like, slow stuff is generally easier to get rid of, and it doesn't really interact on board at all. It's like a zombie giant that actually comes down later. So, yeah, not very good. If you want a slow beat stick, use Ancient Tren. Don't use Tren. It's slightly smaller, but the abilities on it are far superior, and it costs less. So, yeah, Double Nature could be a thing, but not really, and you can use Instill Life with that. So yeah, don't use Tren, use Ancient Tren if you want something like this in a Order Nature deck. Melindra, Spirit Guide, 4 mana, 1 wisdom, 1 nature, heroic legendary, 2/3, 2 speed. It's a fairy. Flying, when Melindra enters the field, you may put a spirit card from your hand into play, and when she leaves, the spirit card goes back to your hand. Slightly hilarious combo with Flame Serpent. That's some tempo for you, but that's 3 colors. Mesmerizing Spirit, that's also 3 colors. Huh. Not fairies. Now, the reason for that is probably Storm Fairy, because that'd be kind of insane. You can go Storm Fairy. Well, basically, it is a Storm Fairy, but has extra HP and becomes a 4/5 over 2 bodies that bounces them, and they can't really kill the Melindra because you get Storm Fairy back. So, yeah, Melindra is not good because the targets aren't very good. There's Dust Titan, and that's it. And that's not even that good. There aren't any interplay effects, really, in the Wisdom, Nature, Spirits. So, unless I've missed something huge, it's basically Dust Titan is where it's at, and then if they kill Melindra, the Dust Titan goes back after shocking 1 guy. So, yeah, I'm not sold on Melindra. I'm not sold on Melindra. Like, she doesn't seem to do enough for the cost. Like, the fact that she returns the creature back to hand could be interesting, but the color combo just doesn't work. Alright, on to the evil cards. Starting with Jackree, Riot Instigator. 3 mana, 1 rage, 1 dominion, generic, heroic legendary, 4/4, 2 speed, Enork. When Jackree enters the field and at the start of each turn, put a target emblem on another creature. Creatures with target emblems get +1/+1 and are slaves. Now, this that effect is only there when Jackree's there as an aura effect. The second one, the target emblems stick around, but the second effect is only when Jackree's in play. What do I think of him? Well, he's not bad, but he's not good. That's the problem with Jackery, basically. The problem is that he's competing with 3 very, very, very hyper-powered rage cards at this mana cost. And the fact you have to go 2 levels is kind of awkward. So what am I talking about? As the disconnect again. Happens every single video. It's the 45-minute disconnect for inactivity. But anyway, not Marketplace. The reason is, like, Phoenix. That's the first one. So, Phoenix, Erelak, and then the Elder. One of them draws a card, it has the same stats. Another one's a 5/5 with Unstoppable, and extra abilities, and the last one is Phoenix. So, yeah, that's basically all I need to say there. So, where do you play Jackery? Well, I could argue for him versus Erelak, maybe, because you want to go 3 levels earlier, but not really versus the Elder, because he's probably going to be the biggest thing in play, and the Elder draws a card, so I'd rather have a card than situational effect. Using on your opponent's stuff, which is where you want to put target emblems, also doesn't really work, because if you give 3 of their guys target emblems, and then they play, like, a champion of the revolt, good luck. That's all I have to say. Like, good luck, they don't have slaves anymore, and they're all huge. So, yeah, I don't really like Jackery, and he's very vulnerable to bounce. Very vulnerable to bounce, because his effect is mandatory, I think. So yeah, he's only good when you're ahead, and that's not usually a good thing for a later game creature. Azure Hiss, the Burning Agony, 4 mana, Corruption, Rage, Generic, Heroic, Legendary, 4/3, 2 speed, Flying, Swift. Azure Hiss deals combat damage to heroes in the form of decaying cards, so the Incarnate ability. Whenever the enemy hero decays cards, select one of those cards. Azure Hiss deals damage equal to that card's mana cost to an enemy creature or hero. Now, the decay is only from combat damage, so you can't just infinitely mill them. So, she's also a demon. Now, this is a very interesting card because she looks amazing. 4/3, milling effect. That's kind of a drawback, actually, that milling effect, because she'd be absolutely insane if she didn't have the mill damage. But anyway, 4/3, milling effect, and the last ability in card is milling. What's the problem? Nature Corruption is the mill 2-color, so you need to go out of your way to play Rage, and all the Rage burn kind of disincentivizes playing like that. So what are you doing? Playing a Dragon Ultra deck and doing that? I played against one of these decks before, and it felt like I was losing just to the Incarnate. It wasn't Azure Hiss that was doing the damage, it was just the Incarnate pretty much. And I played against him a second time and died to damage. So it feels a bit unfocused. I do think the Incarnate is a very, very good creature right now, but I like having the Swift because it stops your opponent from responding to him. Because every 4 turns, you go for the Swift attack and you just kill him in 8 turns basically against a control deck, which is definitely how long those games go. So yeah, I really think Azure Hiss is a powerful card on paper, but she doesn't fit, which does bring down these 2-color cards quite a lot. Now, on to Rygon, the Demon Catcher, and my pick for the best of the heroics in this set. 3 mana, Dominion, Corruption, Legendary, Heroic, 3/5, 2 speed, massive stats on this guy. At the start of your turn, summon a demon with level equal to your level under the enemy's control. That's a really cool effect. And when an enemy demon dies, summon a copy of it under your control. Oh boy, now, I did not know how to evaluate this guy until I played with him, and wow, he is good. The reason he's good is because of 2-color. You can make a Styx for your opponent, and I mean, he Styx's natural predator, basically. Doesn't trade, and also doesn't die to him, and by Styx I mean Underworld Scourge. So, yeah, natural predator of Styx is a good thing to be right now, considering how prevalent that card is. Having played with it more and more, I'm starting to think that may actually be the best card in the set, not cloning that. But anyway, so yeah, natural predator of Dr. Styx. So much so that you summon one for your opponent, he has to sacrifice his own creature or artifact, and then you trade and get it and get another one. Like, Jesus, this guy's good sometimes. Like, oh, it's so brutal. And then later on you just keep making Underworld Scourges and ripping their board apart. Now, once you go 3 levels, it gets a bit awkward. So, yeah, you can give him a succubus and then kill the succubus, get it back, and you effectively just get a 3/3. So that's a thing. You can do that. But in practice, he was really good at 2 levels, not fantastic at 3. So I think this may be the only heroic you may need 4 of for those decks. I don't know if they're good, and the reason for it is because he's the reason you only do 2 levels, which means you really need multiples of this guy in a game. So, yeah, I actually do think that Raygon is quite good. The stats in him are very, very important. That 3/5 is absolutely colossal. And the invulnerability to Dr. Styx is pretty big, at least for the majority of the game, until it gets really late. So, yeah, I actually think this is the only one of the heroics that will see extensive play. Maybe not extensive, because he's 2-color and he's a bit gimmicky, but he might just see extensive play, because you can use stuff like Devious Plot and other creatures to just keep removing their stuff, no matter what it is. And if you're playing against, if you're planning on giving your opponent Dr. Styx constantly, which you probably should, because even Harpy, like, Harpy kills level 1 stuff, but Styx just kills everything. So, yeah, even if your opponent's playing an aggro deck, you just want to make Styx, and then you've got Fumes to kill the Styx, and you can get more and more and more of them. And what's really, really funny is Portal is completely overpowered right now. Completely broken. The reason for it is because you literally can't do anything anymore. Because the if they have Portal on turn 1, yes, you can do that now with Coin and not die. Or turn 2, the game's over. Like, if you don't have artifact removal, the game is done now. There's no outliving a portal anymore because of Underworld Scourge. You just get Underworld Scourge on turns, like, 2, well, for Portal at least, on the turn 2, 3, and then 4. And it's getting to the point when you don't even need Succubus to win the game anymore. It's kind of insane. So, yeah, Portal is completely overpowered at the moment, and Raygon is a reasonable counter to it. Now, granted, he's only a reasonable counter if you ramp him, because otherwise you can't actually get a Styx down fast enough to stop the damage. But maybe, just maybe, Raygon is an actual Portal counter, because every time you kill one of their creatures, you get it, which is huge. So, yeah. I mean, he might be the cure for the Portal cancer, but I think that's something's going to happen with Underworld Scourge. I think Portal is also something that's going to have to be changed eventually. I didn't think it was going to get broken with 1 demon. But yeah, yeah, Underworld Scourge is going to need a change coming up soon. And Raygon is just like the natural predator of Underworld Scourge, which is one of the reasons he's so good. So anyway, the only good heroic, but he is a very, very good card. So anyway, that is my entire Valiant Dawn Zero review finished, which means I now have to make a playlist. So yes, I'm going to make a playlist of all the 6 videos so that you can keep track of them. Now, the next video I do, I haven't decided yet, because I do have Masters testing to do, so I can't really spend as much time as I would making deck decks. But if I find something interesting, I will definitely show it. That is for sure. So I think what I'm going to do next is probably do... I think what I'm probably going to do is, depending on what you guys think, I've got a couple of ideas. So, outside of deck text, which I will be doing anyway, what I'm thinking of doing is a meta prediction, which will be hilariously wrong a month from now. But anyway, it should be interesting. So, I'm thinking of doing a meta prediction, and I'm thinking of doing a, like, my favorite and least favorite designs. Because I've done that before with base set, and I kind of feel like doing it for this set as well, because I really like doing those videos. Just the cards that I really enjoy playing with and playing against versus the cards that I want to be torn to shreds. So yeah, I'm thinking of doing that video as well. So yeah, chime in the comments and I'll kind of decide which one to do before I get the deck tech train going. But I imagine there's going to be a couple days before I get that out, because yeah, I've got Masters testing to do. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or want to ask me any questions, put it in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel directly, there's a link to my Patreon in the description, along with a 75,000 gold code for new players that also gives you the Disquisitive Spirit Card Back. For now, it's been Jotto, signing off.